Hey everyone, I'm Herschel, and welcome back to Decode Healthcare. Today, we're diving straight into one of the most highly requested topics you guys have sent my way. We are doing a complete structural masterclass on the merged CPT guidelines for hospital inpatient and observation care services. That's codes 99221 through 99239. So if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by the intricacies of facility coding, trust me, you are in the exact right place. Let's get to work. Okay, picture this notoriously confusing scenario. It's one that has historically given medical coders, auditors, and physicians absolute headaches. What exactly happens to your CPT code when a patient transitions from observation status to full inpatient status during the exact same stay? Well, the AMA recently introduced a massive paradigm shift in how we handle this. They effectively rewrote the rulebook to simplify our lives, and understanding that shift is the core focus of today's deep dive. To keep this super clear, we're going to follow a chronological patient care journey. We'll start with the merged coding framework, then break down initial care codes, move into subsequent care and rounding, take a look at same-day admit and discharge, and finally wrap up with discharge day management rules.
All right, first up, the merged coding framework.
Remember the old way we had to do this? We had entirely separate code ranges for observation and inpatient services. If a patient's status changed, your coding had to pivot completely. But now, the AMA has merged these into a single, unified code range from 99221 to 99239. And why does this matter to us? Because under these new rules, a patient's transition from observation to inpatient is now treated and billed as one continuous single stay. You don't have to juggle two different sets of guidelines for a status change anymore. It is a massive relief for clinical documentation.
Moving right along to Section 2, the initial care code breakdown.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's day one. The codes 99221, 99222, and 99223 are reported exactly once per admission by the admitting physician. And you've basically got two ways to select your code: medical decision-making, or MDM, and total time. For 99221, you need straightforward or low MDM, or 40 minutes of total time. Step it up to 99222, and you're looking at moderate complexity, or 55 minutes. And for the highest level, 99223, you need high complexity MDM, or a solid 75 minutes of total time. It makes sense, right? These times reflect the heavy lifting that happens on day one, gathering the history, establishing that initial care plan, and making those really complex decisions. But listen up, because the official CPT guidelines pull absolutely no punches here. When you are using total time on the date of the encounter for your code selection, those specified minutes must be met or exceeded. The concept of hitting a midpoint between levels, that just does not apply here. If you spend 74 minutes, you cannot round up to 99223. You have to hit that exact 75-minute mark, or you default back down to 99222. Precision in your time documentation is literally non-negotiable.
All right, Part 3, subsequent care and rounding.
So, stepping into day 2 and beyond, we're looking at daily progress visits. Notice what happens to the time thresholds for these codes. They drop significantly compared to the initial care. Code 99231 drops to 25 minutes. 99232 needs 35 minutes, which is typical for a patient needing a moderate assessment or treatment tweaks. And 99233 requires 50 minutes, usually for significant new issues. And the reason for the drop is simple. The foundational work of the admission is already done. Now the physician is just managing, monitoring, and adjusting the ongoing care.
Next up, Section 4, same-day admit and discharge.
We need to take a quick but super important detour from our multi-day stay to talk about a major exception. See that number 8? That represents the critical 8-hour rule. And honestly, I cannot stress this enough. This single rule is a massive tripping point for coders and facilities during audits. If you aren't tracking the exact hours a patient spends in observation or inpatient status on a same-day visit, your claims are absolutely at risk. The official AMA rulebook lays this out perfectly. If a patient is admitted and discharged on the exact same calendar date, and their length of stay is fewer than 8 hours, you are only allowed to report the initial care codes, so 99221 through 99223. You can't bill a discharge code at all. But if that stay spans 8 hours or more on that single calendar date, well, that unlocks an entirely different set of codes built specifically for same-day admission and discharge. And here are those specific codes for stays of 8 hours or more: 99234, 99235, and 99236. look at the time thresholds: 45 minutes, 70 minutes, and 85 minutes. These times are actually higher than the standard subsequent or discharge codes. Why? Because these codes encompass the combined cognitive work and time of both admitting the patient and discharging them on that single day. Think of it as a 2-for-1 code. But again, you have to prove they were there for at least 8 hours to use it.
Finally, Section 5, Discharge Day Management Rules.
Bringing our standard patient care journey to a close, let's look at the final day. Now, unlike the initial and subsequent codes we just went through, discharge day management relies purely on a binary time-based selection. Medical decision-making is not a factor here at all. You just have two choices. Use code 99238 when the discharge day management totals 30 minutes or less, and use 99239 when the time spent is more than 30 minutes. It seems incredibly simple, right? But capturing all of that time accurately is exactly where providers tend to fall short.
You absolutely do not want to leave valid billable time on the table here. So it is vital to know exactly what counts toward that discharge time. It includes the final examination of the patient, discussions about the hospital stay, giving instructions to caregivers, and, of course, the often time-consuming administrative work, like prepping discharge records, writing prescriptions, and handling referral forms. Now, here's the huge takeaway. This time does not need to be continuous. A physician might spend 15 minutes in the morning examining the patient and then another 20 minutes in the afternoon finalizing the records and meds. That totals 35 minutes, which means you've successfully crossed the threshold to report the higher-level 99239 code. So, as we wrap up this journey from admission all the way to discharge, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question. Are your facility's documentation habits truly ready for an audit? Are your providers accurately logging their total non-continuous times? Are they clearly noting those strict 8-hour thresholds for same-day stays? I highly encourage you to take this structural framework we just walked through, bring it straight back to your teams, and audit-proof your claims by making sure your documentation perfectly aligns with these CPT guidelines.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Decode Healthcare with Harshal.